welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. I've been busy all weekend. So I've been upgrading some gel prints. These are the sort of before pictures. Not necessarily these gel prints, but I've been playing about. What I've done is with them, I've kind of brought some over as examples to kind of show you. So here, this has been like a gel print, like one of these. This is something that I've backed onto card. When I was doing it on paper, the soft pastels that I've used here, they were more streaky. So a more solid card background definitely did work better. Or a thicker paper. The printer paper didn't. It was a bit of hard work. So, oh, I'm putting black everywhere, haven't I? I don't know what I've touched. Oh, who knows? Anyway, so for this one here, I'll use this as an example. That's a multi-layered print. So this was the same. I wish I took before and after shots, but I didn't realise this was going to escalate as much as it did for me. I just got right into the zone. So imagine here, maybe we'd pick out that shape there, or we'd pick out that grey shape. I just picked out shapes, and that's how I ended up with this. And I've used the soft pastels, and what I've done is I've used them with gesso. So I'm getting this lovely flat, matte, almost pastel-y type shade. I also used Mod Podge to create glossy areas, and I'll show you that later on. Unfortunately, I've ran out of matte medium, so when I've collaged tissue paper on top, I've got shiny areas where I didn't want them because I used the Mod Podge. But this is just thumbnails just now. I think that on a big canvas would be amazing. So this is the sort of thing I've been using to collage on top. So these are the sort of things that, you know, when you've put your stencil down on the gel plate, you'll pull it up. So it's just tissue paper, and then we've got big gaps. So actually, you know, like I'll just tear this right here. So if we collaged that on there, we would have like these black shapes here. Now, my original idea was to be like cacti, because to me this is quite a kind of oppressive, hot desert scene. But to me they actually look more like a sinister group of people. So, so there you go. This one here is, this one actually took a lot of work. And I've also mixed up my pink and my purple. But overall, I like the kind of underwater effect. This is very similar to this, but instead it's a kind of, I actually think that might be gold and black paint or mixed together to make a kind of bronzy colour. Anyway, that's a gel print over the top of it. I've tried to do a bit of shading here. I do need to improve my shading skills. But overall, I think that's balanced, it works, and it's got a nice dreamy look to it that I like. Now this one here, all I've used is the soft pastels with gesso. This whole gel print was shiny like this. Very metallics, very neon type colours. And what I've tended to do in a lot of it, not all of it, this one's completely covered. I think this one is too. I have, in some of them, I've left parts of the gel print out because I like that contrast between that very flawed texture, so much going on, areas with the sort of, well, as flat and consistently coloured as I could get it. But to me, that's like a kind of, you know, when you're on holiday at the swimming pool, it's got that vibe to it. Whereas this one, although it's a similar hot area, I feel it's more sinister. This one's more happy. Past the cocktails. Now, in the last video, I was doing the Play-Doh stamps. So this has been collaged on the top. This here, we've got a few of these. I was kind of making a collage I actually showed you in the last video how this originally looked. This is what started it all, in fact. This is what started it. So, I was using the soft pastels and the ink tints with the gesso on here. I've collaged a lot of the Play-Doh stamps on. Now, overall, I'm still not, it's a bit blah. I think the shapes are nice, but the colours are not. So yeah, I need to work on that more. But anyway, I stopped working on that and came over to here. These little things. So this was like a sort of A4 sheet. And what I'd done is I'd sort of cut out some squares and some collage shapes and put them on. Then I was like, oh, it's rubbish. So I put a blue glaze on it. I actually used, that's another thing I've been using. I know that says gouache. It's kids' paint as far as I'm concerned. There's no ingredients or anything. I've just been using the kids' paint and I watered it down and I kind of put a glaze over. But I'll show you that soon. So this here anyway, I kind of tried to find a soft pastel colour that kind of matched this. Because I added this on at the end. But you can see some of the previous, you know, the pastel stamps coming through the soft pastel with gesso. Sometimes what I was doing, I was kind of applying it and then while it was still damp, I was kind of lifting it back off a bit. So this here is all kids poster paint made up from these three colours. These paints, the poster paint, kids paint, works. It makes the most amazing colours. It mixes really well together. And you see that blue there and that kind of turquoise there. They're just lovely. So anyway, that was just a black and white gel print and I've coloured in the shapes. This here is a mixture of soft pastel, oil pastel and the previous gel print. Could have mixed that there better. So what happens is I've been putting it down and then I put the gesso over the top. But I clearly haven't mixed that well enough there. Sometimes I'm doing a couple of layers or I'm even putting down. You'll see it more later on. Like that there's a kind of blue-grey. I would maybe come in and put a kind of burnt sienna on top of that as well. I've tried to do a bit of shading here. So overall the design isn't great, but there's something about it. It's more this section here. I really like that there. How that comes right, how that mixes. There's something about that I really like. So this one is a gel print. And what I did was the same as this. The kids' poster paints. I coloured in some areas with it. And then this is soft pastel with gesso all round the outside. And see the way this is here? I mean, that whole gel print was like that. So this one here is one of the ones where I'd kind of made that A4 collage sheet and then cut it down. I found this was actually best to start off with because see the shapes on the collage? They give you ridges. So it helped me kind of... My paintbrush control's not the best. So with this one as well, this is a mixture of soft pastel, ink tints, gesso, and I put some ink over this as well and then I took it back off and it's just kind of, it's enhanced that kind of shadowy look to it, I suppose. This one here, I kind of ended up going a bit landscapey. So I really like this one here because it kind of makes me think of, you know, if you're kind of looking, if you're standing in like a sort of raised area, like a cliff edge or something, looking down on a nice sort of bay. That is part of the gel print in here. It's probably a gel print that I've collaged over before because I can see there's tissue paper there. But I love that. And that's just 3 areas of colour on that. This here is a soft pastel. So this is part of a collage this is, so I've done all the green here with the gesso. I've probably tried to do a bit of shading here and change my mind. And then this here is me trying to blend the soft pastels with the gesso again. I should stop saying trying, that is exactly what I'm doing. You can see here as well that there's a shape of, you know, the gel print that's been on there. And that's probably why I started doing this shading, because almost that kind of changing colour to begin with, it gives you something to work with, to shade from, if you like. That's my thought process anyway. But there's something about that one I really like. And this one's very similar to it. I did these two at the same time. So actually this was in the middle. So this was like, and then I just did the kind of 2/3 rule. It's a bit more 3/4, 1/4 I'd say. But it's just how I liked it. And even though all the shading was on the sky, there was something about this here that I preferred. I felt like it's probably because it contrasts more with what's up here, because actually underneath this soft pastel with gesso, there's obviously a lot of patterns and stuff, and you can see there's red under here as well. A lot of the time what I was doing was like I'd put yellow on top of that purple, and that's how I was starting them off. That there is part of the gel print. This is that Collage A4 paper with the Play-Doh stamping on, and you can see it in here. This here is, I think that's actually just water with the soft pastel, and then I'm lifting it back up once it kind of starts to dry a bit. I'm not even sure what that is. Most likely the soft pastel. This is one of the first ones I did. I just like it. It's like 1, 2, 3 squares with something that looks like a wee vase of cacti at the side and a red background. That's exactly what it is, but it just looks really nice. It looks more than nice. There's something about it, and I do think these hidden designs, because I actually think that might even be in there. I can't be certain. Like I say, I should have took before and afters, but I didn't realise that I was actually going to get us into this as I did. So this is one of the earlier ones. This is probably very similar to that, and I've picked it out. It's kind of got a sort of trippy space type vibe to it. There's a bit of oil pastel, I think. Is that? No, it's soft pastel. This here is just purely a collage, but I've put a glaze over the top, and it's a red one. This watered down red kids paint. And what I like is this blue area has retained a lot of it. We already had some red in there to start with, so that's gained some of it. And then this kind of greeny colour up here is also took on. That is a toned paper edge, so a lot of the paint had settled in there as well. And I just think it made this, it makes it look more finished. It makes it all look in the one level and not like bits of paper stuck on it like it did before. And I really loved that design before, but I feel like it's given it what it needed. I don't know why I love this one so much, but I do. It's basically, that is, in fact it's not even a gel print, this is a collaged painted book page that's got tissue paper over the top. I've done that bit yellow, this bit, this kind of dark dusky pink, and then I've pulled over one of these type of things over the top. But to me it kind of looks like a pig sunbathing because of the colours of the background, the shape of the background, and on top of it. And I think that this colour just, so it's kind of like when you're sunburning in the sun. This one here, Now, normally when I would do this sort of thing, I would have this as the starting point. This was actually the last thing I did to it. And I could have put these on top of that and done everything the same, but there's something about the fact that this is on top, because it doesn't quite meet at some areas, and then in some areas it's kind of overlapping. And I don't know why, but there is something about that in comparison to doing it the other way, which would be easier, because what I was doing as well to glue this down is I wasn't cutting it out first. I just basically put the glue down on the areas I wanted it. Put this on, you know, as a sheet, let it dry. And then I was kind of trying to pull it up when it was nearly dry. Because I've got a wee bit of it in there as well, you can see. So I really like that. There's something about where it doesn't quite meet and where it overlaps that just works. But I didn't try to create that. I actually tried to create the kind of perfect edge, and that was the result. And yeah, this one here, this is actually, I was jelly printing on canvas. I'll show you this sort of thing, a canvas panel. So it's got this kind of net, it's got very tiny grid marks on it. So I've managed to get that here. And this is in one case where the Mod Podge is where it should be. So this might even be what started the shine, actually. Do you know that? Because it's not just about the texture or the different colours. There's actually, the fact that it's so matte and that's got a shine to it is lovely. That in itself, it's almost like taking blocks and then, but it's so much more interesting to look at because there's a difference in the, you know, the flat and the shiny bit. And this here, that's over green, but it's 3 different colours of green. Well, they're the same and then that's different. It just works. And that's more of the Play-Doh stamps. This one here, this isn't great, but I wanted to keep it in because I do like this over it, and I like this here. So that's part of the original gel print right there. This is black oil pastel. I really like that shade of blue. I actually think that's a sort of slightly, a blue with a slight tint of greeny yellow in it. And then what I've done is, I'm sure that's the Yellow Kids poster paint over the top. And then the black oil pastel. But I like this. I like this. It does look like a fried egg though. And I like that. But I don't like it as a whole. And when I say I like this, what I like is the design itself. I'm sure that I've just... How did I do that? That's a gel plate with water. Something to do with water, I'm sure of it. It'll come back to me. Now, this is a bit of a, it's not quite this coloured gel print you can see, but it's something similar. So that's a gel print that's really highly patterned and on its own quite difficult to use as a full picture. But as little bits, this is the last thing I added on. It just works. Now, I did cut this one out before I glued it down. And what I've got is, because it's hard to do it accurately, is I've actually got part of what was underneath coming bits through slightly. And you can see there, it's not quite fitted around this blue shape. And I think that just adds to it. So, again, more of those Play-Doh stamps. And that is a burnt sienna soft pastel with... Is that Mod Podge on top? It's quite flat looking, actually. No, it is. It just looks flatter because this is all Mod Podge. Everything's Mod Podged apart from that and that. But again, I love that. There's something about it that just works. And that's just a little snippet off of one of my gel prints. Oh, that's actually got a bit of gel print as well. This here and here. But I kind of ripped it back so it didn't cover these. So this one here is probably where the shine is most obvious and the sort of way it can separate. So this is the original gel print, this here. You can see it around these guys as well, slightly. This here is soft pastel with gesso, and then this is a sort of dark brown soft pastel with Mod Podge, or just water actually. I think it is Mod Podge. But they're basically two soft pastels, gesso, Mod Podge, and you can see there the difference. It makes it look like two different entities rather than just an outline around it, if that makes sense. Almost like a sort of grassy area with a curb. This here, so these three, I mean, this was a very highly big shaped one. And these three I ended up with, so they're all the same colour, a kind of sage green soft pastel with gesso. And then I took that brown, and what I was doing was I was actually trying to outline it, but it was quite difficult. So I've ended up doing the whole thing. But then as it was drying, I just kind of rubbed it back a bit. And I've got that. And I just think this works because there's hints of that purple round here. I've pulled out the green. Don't know why I used these colours. This was, I'm not sure. I don't think it was either of those greens. I think it was like a brownie green. And then I went over it with the burnt sienna and the Mod Podge. And I think this is really successful due to, all down to the fact that we've used the gel print, the shine and the matte. And it's all worked well together. This is just a glaze of the reds, the kids' red paint over the top with water. And that's all that I've done to this one. This here's a bit all over the place, but this was a stencil that just, you know, it's just rings, repeating circle rings. And then this is off another gel print with that same stencil. I've pulled out a faint shape that was in there, kind of repeated that going round. It's not as successful that time though. Probably tried too hard. That one probably came without thinking. This is a part of this sort of gel print. And that's a bit of, I think it's a raw sienna type soft pastel. So, I feel that one needs more, but at the same time, it doesn't. There's something about it I like. This one here is, you can see the gel print in here. You can see there some of it. So that whole page started life kind of like this here. And then this is one of these type of gel prints that I've put on over the top. So it adds line work. This had actually been a lot longer, and I kind of cut it down because my colours were a bit off, but at the same time there was something about them that worked well together that I liked. So my plan is to kind of try and move forward with this a bit as well. Now that was good quality kind of paper in that one, so 140 cartridge paper. This is just thin printer paper type. So this one here, this is the gel print that you can see there. So the whole thing was like that. I've picked out the shapes with the soft pastel. I went round, I've edged some of it, and then I've went over it with the ink. But for some reason this time the ink kind of covering too much, so I kind of washed it off quickly. It was watercolour paper. And then this is what I've been left with, and I really like it. I like the fact this to me looks like a rabbit, and I can't work out if it's facing that way like everything else is, or if it's looking away. But this is like your focal point right here. Now this one's a mixture of soft pastels and oil pastel. This is oil pastel. This makes me think of theatre seats. And again, this is the gel print. So is this and this. This has got a glaze. In fact, the whole thing's got a glaze of kids' yellow poster paint over it. Apart from that, no, I think that does, but that's got a slightly thicker one. Anyway, I'm all over the place. I'm getting excited. So there's something about that one I really like. This one here is all oil pastel with some gel print left. And this is kind of where the shading started. Because when you're using about 2, 3, 4 oil pastels, you know, kind of over each other, you can get that blend. So I like this here because I feel like that kind of looks like he's been reflected a bit. He's not looking in great shape. Something about this one I really like. This here is just soft pastels and gesso. This is before I discovered the Mod Podge. Soft pastels and gesso over, you know, this gel print. This is a bit that was collaged on. And then I've put a kind of yellow poster paint glaze over the top. And I like what it's done to it. It's almost like a vintage look to it. But we've basically got blue, green, yellow, red, and it's brought it all together. And this really shows off the gel print that when it was just a full sheet of that, it was lost. Now, I'm sure this is Inktense actually. I'm sure it is with gesso. This was kind of the first one I did, which is why I've put it in here. But I also think that I could add to that. I wouldn't make that as a full picture. This is purely oil pastel. This is one of the paper ones. But there's something about the way, I think it really shows what can be done by adding to it and just picking out certain shapes. Because this is all one stencil, this here, but I've managed to, just by the way I've applied it, you know, with the light blue and the dark blue, it's kind of got a cartoon quality, and it's like, this is like a thought bubble. But we've kept a lot of the gel print in the background. And while it's not my preferred design, well, not design, style I suppose, it just works together. They almost balance each other. So I will, you know, I will do some of these on camera as well. I did try to do a couple on camera, but I wasn't, see, because I was kind of a bit all over the place with it, I couldn't do it in a way that was kind of more clearly explained, because I was kind of discovering it myself. So that's why I thought I'll do a sort of flip through instead. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.